Self-respect is the strategy, which everything else is noise. People talk about tactics, about how to say the right thing, when to pull back, when to lean in, but all of that collapses if the foundation isn't solid. If you don't value yourself, the world will negotiate your worth down to whatever you're willing to accept. And life will test that every single day. A woman operating from self-respect doesn't wake up trying to manage outcomes. She wakes up managing her energy. She understands that how she treats herself is a silent instruction manual for how others are allowed to treat her. That's not arrogance, that's awareness. She doesn't need to announce her standards. They show up in her decisions, her boundaries, and the way she walks away without creating a scene. See, self-respect is quiet. It's not loud on social media. It doesn't need applause. It's built in private moments when nobody's watching, when it would be easier to settle, easier to explain disrespect away, easier to accept less just to avoid being alone. That's where the real work happens. That's where discipline turns into identity. When a woman respects herself, she doesn't chase validation. She doesn't audition for attention. She knows that being chosen means nothing if she had to abandon herself to get picked. So she chose herself first, every time. And that choice changes the whole dynamic. Men feel it, not because she's cold, not because she's distant, but because she's grounded. There's no desperation in her voice, no urgency in her movements. She's not afraid to lose what doesn't align. And that's power, real power, the kind that doesn't need to dominate because it can walk away and be just fine. Self-respect means she listens more than she explains. She watches actions instead of getting hypnotized by words. She understands that consistency is the language of seriousness. Anybody can say the right thing once. Not everybody can show up the same way over time, so she gives people space to reveal themselves. She's patient, but she's not passive. And when disrespect shows up, she doesn't argue with it. She doesn't try to fix grown people. She doesn't beg for understanding. She makes an adjustment. Access changes. Energy shifts. Distance increases. Not as punishment, just as consequence. Because self-respect means you don't negotiate with behavior that costs you your peace. A woman like this doesn't confuse kindness with weakness. She can be warm and still be firm. She can love deeply and still leave if the situation requires it. Her softness is protected by standards. Her heart is guarded by clarity. She understands that boundaries aren't walls, they're filters. Self-respect also means she's accountable. She doesn't blame men for everything that goes wrong. She reflects, she learns. She asks herself hard questions. Why did I ignore that red flag? Why did I stay longer than I should have? What lesson is here for me? Growth lives in that honesty, and that's why she levels up instead of repeating cycles. She invests in herself when no one is clapping. Mind, body, purpose, finances, spirituality. She's building something, not to prove a point, but because her life deserves structure and direction. When you're focused on your mission, you don't have time to entertain confusion. You don't tolerate chaos because you know exactly what it costs you. Men who aren't aligned feel uncomfortable around this type of woman, not because she's doing anything wrong, but because self-respect exposes intentions. Gains fall apart. Half effort becomes obvious. And the truth is, not everybody wants to rise, they just want access. Self-respect denies access without apology. The right men, though, they recognize it immediately. They move differently, they speak clearly, they show up with intention because they understand that this woman isn't impressed by surface-level effort. She's evaluating character. She's watching how you handle stress, how you treat people who can't do anything for you, how consistent you are when things aren't convenient. Self-respect is the strategy because it saves time, it saves energy, it saves years of emotional debt. It keeps you aligned with who you're becoming instead of who you used to be. It's the reason you don't have to manipulate, perform, or overextend. At the end of the day, self-respect is a decision you make every morning to tell the truth, to honor your limits, to walk away from what disrespects you, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. Because that pain is temporary, but losing yourself lasts a long time. And once you lock that in, everything changes. The people around you change. The opportunities change. The way life responds to you changes. Because the world can only meet you at the level you meet yourself. That's the strategy. Always has been. Energy sets the rules long before words ever get involved. Before conversations, before promises, before labels. The frequency you move on decides what's allowed to stay in your life and what naturally falls away. That's not philosophy. That's experience. Life doesn't respond to what you say you want. It responds to what you consistently are. A woman who understands energy doesn't waste time trying to control situations or people. She knows control is fragile, energy is permanent. So she works on her inner state first, her calm, her focus, her self-trust. Because once your energy is stable, chaos has nowhere to attach itself. See, energy is honest. It exposes intentions without interrogation. You don't have to question people when your presence already tells them what level they need to come correct on. Some people rise, some people disappear. Both outcomes are wins. When a woman is grounded, she doesn't rush conversations. She doesn't react emotionally to every trigger. She pauses, she observes. That pause alone shifts power. Not power over someone, power over herself. And when you have that, nobody can rush you into decisions that don't align. Energy also decides access, not looks, not words, not attention. Access is earned through alignment. If someone brings confusion, inconsistency, or emotional turbulence, her energy naturally creates distance, not because she's angry, but because her nervous system is trained to protect peace. She's not addicted to emotional roller coasters. She's disciplined enough to choose stability. People misunderstand this and think it's cold. It's not cold, it's clear. Clear energy doesn't explain itself repeatedly. It doesn't over-apologize. It doesn't shrink to make others comfortable. It stands firm without hostility. And that firmness forces honesty in everyone around it. A man feels it immediately when he's dealing with a woman whose energy is clean. There's no room for games, no space for half effort, no tolerance for mixed signals. Not because she says don't do this, but because her presence doesn't reward it, and behavior that doesn't get rewarded eventually disappears. Energy also teaches patience. A woman operating at a high frequency understands timing. She doesn't rush intimacy. She lets consistency prove itself. She gives people enough rope to either build trust or expose themselves. And she's okay with waiting, because desperation doesn't live where purpose exists. Her life has structure, direction, meaning beyond relationships. That alone shifts everything. When someone knows you're not looking for completion, only alignment, the dynamic changes. You're not here to be saved. You're not here to be entertained. You're here to build something real. Energy sets emotional boundaries without speeches. When disrespect shows up, her tone doesn't change. Her availability does. When effort drops, her investment follows. When honesty disappears, so does her openness. No drama, no revenge, just cause and effect. This is why arguments don't drain her. She doesn't argue often. She decides arguments are for confusion, decisions are for clarity, and clarity is an energetic state. Energy also attracts mirrors. If someone consistently meets her with maturity, presence, and respect, it's because they recognize that frequency. If someone feels intimidated, irritated, or insecure around her, that's not her problem, that's information. Energy reveals compatibility faster than words ever could. She's not perfect. She has emotions, she feels deeply, but she doesn't let emotions drive the wheel. She processes privately and responds intentionally. That's mastery. That's emotional wealth. And emotional wealth changes the way people treat you. When you're not reactive, people can't manipulate you. When you're not seeking approval, people can't control you. When you're not afraid of being alone, people can't threaten you with absence. That's why energy is everything. The strongest move she makes is consistency. Same tone on good days, same standards on lonely days, same self-respect when it would be easier to compromise. That consistency creates safety for herself first, and then for anyone allowed close. And here's the part most people miss. Energy doesn't just filter men, it upgrades life. Opportunities align, stress decreases, intuition sharpens. Because when your internal world is ordered, the external world responds differently. You stop forcing outcomes. You start attracting alignment. Men who are serious step up because they feel the weight of her presence. Not pressure weight, the weight of standards, the weight of purpose, the weight of a woman who knows her time is valuable. Men who aren't serious fade out without conflict. because there's nothing for them to feed on. Energy sets the rules because energy is law. You don't negotiate with it. You don't explain it. You embody it. And whatever can't rise to that level removes itself. That's how peace is protected. That's how standards stay intact. That's how the right people find you. Not by chasing, but by becoming. Alignment over attention. That's the principle that changes everything. Most people waste their lives chasing attention, likes, validation, approval from the wrong people, but attention without alignment is empty. It's noise, it's applause without substance. A high-value woman knows this. She doesn't bend herself to be seen. She bends the world around the reality of who she is and what she's building. See, attention is cheap. Everyone wants it, but not everyone deserves it. People can scream, they can flash, they can perform, and for a moment, they'll get eyes on them. But alignment is rare. Alignment is energy, intention, purpose, all meeting in one exact frequency. Alignment is when someone's words, actions, and presence all reinforce your standards and values without you having to explain yourself. That's the currency that lasts. That's the energy that compounds. A woman who moves from alignment over attention doesn't care if everyone notices. She cares if the right ones do. She doesn't bend over backwards to be liked, to be followed, to be seen in someone else's frame. She's building her life according to her blueprint, her goals, her principles. And people who aren't aligned with that blueprint naturally drop off. That's not rejection. It's filtration. It's pruning. It's necessary growth. Men feel this immediately. Some get uncomfortable because alignment exposes gaps. If you're out of alignment with her frequency, it shows up. Not because she's calling out loudly, but because energy doesn't lie. The way she moves, the decisions she makes, the patience she exercises, all of it signals what is acceptable and what is not. Misalignment creates friction, and friction is a teacher. It either sparks growth or triggers departure. Attention without alignment is the trap most fall into. They spend their lives seeking to be recognized, liked, or accepted by people who will never truly support their vision. They perform, they pretend, they adjust, and for what? A few hollow compliments, a fleeting sense of approval. But the woman who understands alignment, she's not interested in empty applause. She's looking for resonance. She's looking for connection with people who understand her energy, who can walk at the same pace, who respect the same rules she lives by. Alignment also requires self-awareness. You can't filter for it if you don't know what it looks like. She knows herself deeply, her values, her purpose, her boundaries. She knows what she will accept and what she won't. And that self-knowledge acts as a magnet. People who belong naturally come closer. People who don't belong drift away. It's effortless once you master it. This principle changes relationships completely. A high-value woman doesn't need constant validation from a man. She doesn't need text calls or empty gestures. She watches for alignment. Does he show up when it matters? Does he keep his word? Does he match the energy he claims? Attention might fool some, but alignment doesn't lie. It's the difference between someone talking a good game and someone actually living the truth. It also applies to life beyond relationships, opportunities, work, friendships, even habits. They all respond to alignment. When she's aligned with her mission, doors open naturally. People appear who can contribute meaningfully, and she doesn't waste energy on what doesn't match. Misalignment becomes a natural exit, a filter that protects her time, her resources, and her peace. Patience is part of this strategy. Alignment can't be rushed. You can't force someone or something into your frequency. You can't manipulate circumstances to make it fit. Trying to do so creates tension, stress, and compromises your own energy. The woman who understands alignment waits. She cultivates her state, works on herself, and trusts that the right people and opportunities will meet her where she is. And when misalignment becomes obvious, she doesn't overreact. She doesn't scream or argue. She adjusts access, shifts focus, redirects energy. She doesn't need to make a scene to enforce her standards. Alignment enforces itself. Those who resonate will stay. Those who don't won't. It's elegant, it's efficient, it's powerful. This mindset also protects her emotionally. She doesn't invest in noise. She doesn't waste her heart chasing attention from people who can't meet her where she is. She understands that chasing attention is chasing smoke, is fleeting, unreliable, and leaves you empty. Alignment, however, is tangible. It's measurable in actions, consistency, and shared values. It's the foundation of trust, respect, and deep connection. High vibration women don't apologize for this. They don't explain it. They don't beg for understanding. They move with clarity, calm, and consistency. The people who get it will rise to meet it. The people who don't will drift away. And that's exactly as it should be. At the end of the day, alignment over attention is freedom. It liberates you from external expectations, from drama, from compromise. It ensures that your energy goes only where it matters, to people who can match it, to situations that honor it, to goals that amplify it. It's self-respect in action, it's strategy in practice, and it's the silent code that high-value women live by. When you master this, everything else becomes secondary. Attention will always chase you, but it will no longer control you. Alignment becomes the standard, energy becomes the law, and life responds naturally, effortlessly, and powerfully to the frequency you consistently project.